Hey, where are you based in Saigon?
Yeah, in District 7.
Near Crescent Mall, that area, or
I actually used to live directly across from Crescent Mall, but we're probably, do you know Lotte Mart?
yeah, sure.
Yeah, right near Lotte in Himlam.
Now you got to give me your background. I mean, how did you end up, Aussie boy, and suddenly living married to a local lady, running a business there, enjoying life? How did you, halfway on the other side of the planet, end up in Vietnam?
Yeah, so interesting story. My previous employer, who I'd been with for near 15 years, sent me over here on secondment to manage an offshore team that they had. So sent me over here, which was originally for a 1-year contract, which turned into 2, which turned into 3, and then I decided I didn't want to leave. So
Cool.
it all, it would have never been, never in my wildest dreams would I have thought that I would have wound up here and where I am today. But very happy where I am and what we're doing.
It's funny how things kind of happen in life, right? You have these plans, and then life happens.
It's a story you hear once in a while that people actually, with regards to Vietnam, that people go there, they expect to be there for a couple of months, and then suddenly 12 years later, they
yeah.
So
never leave. Once you're comfortable here and you have I guess a bit of a lifestyle and you're comfortable and enjoying what you're doing and you know your way around. It's very much like home and just a lot busier.
I've been wanting to get a perspective from a local foreign business owner, and what they what their experiences are, things that they would like to comment on or maybe see that there could be improvement in. We've talked to a lot of people who are people that offer expertise and knowledge for the employee side, but nothing from the employer side. So which is why it's very interesting to have you on today. So thanks for coming on.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
So maybe, from the get-go, can you tell us a little bit about, just in general, your journey from building blocks as a child to founding Narkin, and what inspired you to pursue a career in construction and later in entrepreneurship?
Started, favorite thing as a kid was Lego. Who doesn't love building blocks? And just loved it. And throughout my whole childhood and early high school days, everything was about building, woodworking classes, anything that I could do to actually spend time building. So then, later working out that I can make that a career was just a big bonus. So I went originally, studied my diploma of building, and that led me into a position with one of Victoria's largest home builders. So I was there for 15 years, and throughout that time, progressing through various roles within the business, both technical and managerial, and really enjoyed that. Loved my time there, and I guess after 15 years, it was either now or never. It was time to make the leap and do my own thing. So like you mentioned, technical role. So initially, I love the technical side of things, the detail, getting into it all. But then the opportunity to manage and lead teams and teach them how to do that same role was just as fun. So having that ability and that skill set throughout the years of managing people, it was great to realize that I could make that a company, get out and do my own thing.
Now you were there for 15 years. Obviously, you enjoyed your job. I mean, I don't. It's the current generation of employees. When they hear working for a company for 15 years, that's kind of an oddity.
Yeah. Even during my tenure, there were people commenting that this is not normal for you to stay so long. Like, why haven't you moved around? And the simple answer was, I love the company and I love the culture there and the values, and it was a very easy decision to stay. Instead of looking out and seeing what's on the other side, it was don't leave something if it's great.
That's a quality, by the way. I think a lot of people, young people, are always comparing, and so they never commit to anything, and because of that, they end up job hopping every. I don't know if that's necessarily the case in Vietnam currently. I think it's becoming an issue as they take on the kind of the traits and the habits of employees in other developed countries. But I think there's a big advantage in staying with one skill set or one expertise for 15 years. You get really good at what you do. You go deep down that rabbit hole. Did that serve you well in beginning your business in Vietnam?
Yes. So there's two sides to the coin. Having stayed with the one business and the one builder, I did develop a very specific set of skills that were, I would say, honed to that business. So there's a lot of lessons and I guess ingrained patterns of thought there. So on the other side, when starting a business, you need to have an open mind and be ready to challenge ideas and do different things. So yes, having that time was really valuable and has still proven to be very valuable, but definitely it put the blinkers on and I needed to have a bit more of an open mind.
So just a quick question, at some point you were assigned with like optimizing the drafting process in the company, right? So I guess at that point there must have been this switch from a purely or mainly technical role to suddenly having to manage other people. Did you find this to be a difficult transition, or did you find that suddenly management or leadership was actually something that you were driven by just as much as the technical aspect of your work?
So originally at my previous employer, I was moved into a management role in my 4th year. So I've effectively been managing for 11 years there.
All right.
So I had that experience. I'd gone through company workshops, professional training development, leveling up, I guess, that aspect of being able to manage and lead and inspire. So then shifting that to a different team was fine. So bridging that gap was fine in terms of managing skills. The challenge came about when we're crossing cultures.
Yeah.
And the difference between, I guess, the mindsets, the motivations, pain points, all the things that you need to be aware of to lead and inspire a team.
This is really interesting and something that we've been discussing a lot ourselves. What would you say are the biggest cultural differences? What are the factors that you have over time learned that you've had to account for the most or focus on the most to make things work?
It's hard now. I've been here almost 8 years, so it's almost ingrained to a degree. If you asked me in year 1, I would have been able to pinpoint all of them for you. I guess the ones that still stand out today are family values and how that plays such an important factor into the mindset of the individual. Everything is about, I only have Australia to compare to, but the values of, all right, my career, I'm doing this because I need to support my family. Whereas in Australia, it's the other way around. My parents will support me to build my career, and then I'll go and do it myself. That's one of the differences. In terms of cultural differences, there's a long list, to be honest, and there's no shortcut. You have to live it. You have to breathe it. You have to see it to understand it and truly appreciate it.
Can you show some examples or talk about some examples of some initial things you thought were going to be, and then what you've found out that they weren't necessarily what you had originally imagined in terms of cultural? I'm always curious about that because our cultures, the Australian culture and the American culture, are not too different. And I find that a lot of my buddies who go back to Vietnam and start up businesses and bring back that American mindset and think it has to be a certain way, they find themselves, in a rude awakening, and that there's a lot of pushback. And the ones who are able to succeed long term have to make some adjustments to how they manage people. So can you kind of share some of your thoughts?
So you're right. The adjustments are on the employer, especially when you have that Western sort of mindset. You can't just come in and push that mindset down. It's you're the foreigner coming here, and you need to adapt, not the other way around. So a lot of the lessons that we and the values that we I guess learn over time, and we feel that optimize and enhance business, yes, they may work in other countries, but we need to consider the impact of that sort of thinking and how we bring that back to Vietnam. So examples, like you said, there's many ways to do a task, and our way or our thinking isn't always the right way or the perfect way for the individual and the circumstances. So I guess example, keep an open mind and be prepared to be challenged, and don't take it the wrong way. It's for the development. It's not a criticism. It's for the actual development and to open your eyes. That was one thing that I learned very quickly. Don't take feedback as an insult. Take it as feedback, actually how it should be received.
I think Vietnamese people have a hard time with feedback. We call it feedback, but to them it's translated as criticism. So,
Yes.
And there's a lot of honor involved, and they take it very personally instead of looking at it as constructive advice. It's sometimes take it as a personal attack, and there's a lot of honor and things that as a Western employer you don't think about so much. Right? I told you just do this for me, please. But from our side, it's just pretty it's just clear advice. But from their viewpoint, often, oh man, I suck, or this guy hates me, or I'm doing a horrible job and I'm embarrassing myself, and do you have to constantly, no, not constantly, but do you find yourself having to explain to them, hey, I'm going to give you some advice. Take it as advice. Don't take it any further than that. I want you here long term. I want to work with you. We are on the same team. It's not you versus me. Do you find yourself in that situation?
Yeah, I have many times, and I think the key is you need to prove your intention. If you don't explain your intention, like you just mentioned, it can be received as criticism. If you clearly explain, hey, I've been through this before, here's the challenges I had, here's how I overcame them, you're demonstrating credibility and a sincere approach to giving feedback and constructive criticism, as you said.
I think actually is you just mentioned the lack of communication. I think that's a big problem from the employee side. Often is that they don't set clear expectations for you as the employer. Where let's say you give them a task and maybe sometimes they can't complete it or they don't have necessary skills. Then rather than saying, hey, I appreciate you asking me to do this. I'm not fully qualified, but I can go figure out how to do it. Sometimes they will quickly just say, yeah, okay, I'll get it done. But without really truthfully knowing that they can get it done or not. I find that a lot. I've had that experience in the past myself. And again, the communications is so important so that there's not a lot of friction from the start. So I'm assuming that even now after 8 years in Vietnam, it's still an issue. What is that fair to say?
I would say it's not just an issue in Vietnam. I've experienced in many countries people saying that yes, I can do something, and not actually having the skills to achieve that. I think transparency and honesty across any culture or language is the most important thing. Regardless of country. So I think. Yeah, no matter where we're sitting, being clear and having that open dialogue and trust is the most important thing.
So related to that, having been in Vietnam for what was it, 8-9 years, or a small decade, I mean, a lot can happen in a decade. Do you feel like things have changed during the course of that period where you've been in Vietnam? Have people changed? Has the the employee, the approach of the average employee to your company, you as a boss or your management style, has that changed? Is change coming, or is it the same thing over the past decade?
It's hard to say. I would say if I compare now to 7 years ago, 8 years ago, yes, there is change, but because all of the change is incremental and over time, and you're living through it day to day, nothing stands out as much. The most significant change I've seen is the newer generation entering the workforce. That has been the biggest difference that I've noticed. And I'm hearing this is not just a local thing, this is a worldwide thing. So that's the number one change I've noticed. And it's not a bad thing. It's actually shaping up to be a good thing that is challenging us and pushing us to think new ways to harness and support this next generation.
What are some things from this current crop of workers that are coming out that are positive in your eyes?
So adaptability of technology so much faster. Similar to us when we were entering the workforce, we knew we had a better grasp of computers than the older generation. Well, this new generation has a grasp of all the programs that we're just getting used to. They're already across it. So yeah, adaptability. Another thing I've noticed, the new generation communication skills and language skills are a lot better. I've seen more educated individuals coming through have already developed English. So we don't need to also create that as part of a training program to upskill their English.
So whereas in the past you had a program to upskill the
Yeah.
typical okay.
So we had an English centre that we engaged, and they would run workshops with the team. We'll get them to a proficient level for business, but also life. So you can talk to me about your job, but you can also talk to me about what you're doing on the weekend. Make it enjoyable. So, whereas the new generation, I don't need to teach that. What I am finding we need to teach is the values that we hold as the older generation as such, what work ethic is, and really how to, I guess, impart that experience and knowledge on them.
Are they taking this advice and wisdom positively, or is there a lot of pushback? Is there a lot of friction with these the younger generation? Because we had this conversation before, right? And we come from an older generation where there are certain things that we come to expect from people in terms of humbleness. Let's just say, when you're applying for a job, especially if you're just coming out of college, and then proving your value, and then over time maybe making some demands. And then you mentioned that some of the younger people are coming out and immediately trying to negotiate salary.
They're doing it the other way around. And like I said, I think that's a universal thing. It's the access to information globally is at their fingertips. So they will think or feel that they could they have a higher worth to the workforce. Whereas reality need a bit of, like you said, a bit of humbleness and appreciation to just bring it back a little bit.
Are you finding them? A lot of them have to eat this humble pie, and when they make these demands, you kind of, hey, I can appreciate your enthusiasm and your confidence, but
yeah. So that's a very short part of the conversation where we just refer them to data and facts. Here's the data of the current marketplace. Simple as that. We're fairly accommodating and willing to provide that training to upskill them, but that comes also at a cost to facilitate that training.
Do you experience that people, that they become surprised when you expose them to this data that you just described? I mean, so is this a matter of people lacking information when they come out of university? Is it just a lack of understanding of how the market works, or is it, as I suspect it is in some places in the world, at least in the country Denmark, where I come from myself, that is also arrogance to a very large extent? Like, people are just being fed with this idea that you should just go out of university and immediately become a CEO of a company and a self-made millionaire, right? So that's just, you're fed up with this idea that you are just worth much more than you are. But when you expose people to this data, do they become surprised or do they know it already?
So I think, and I reflect on my own personal experience 20 years ago. So when I graduated from university, going through and realizing that, all right, this is the job I want to apply for, I'm looking at the price, the salary packages online and seeing the range, not understanding at the time that that's for a skilled person with over 5 years experience. So that, particularly for myself, and I think a lot of my friends and colleagues at the time entering into the workforce, that skewed our mindset of what we should be getting paid or should be getting offered. So once, and going back to what you said before, Lam, you need to eat a bit of humble pie and realize, okay, yes, I'm a graduate, I am a trainee, I'm an intern, I'm entering this market for the first time. I have no experience, real world experience, and this company is going to nurture me and provide that support for me. And once you, I guess, appreciate that and have a bit more of an understanding of the process that you're going to go through, you realize that salary range gets divided by 5 entering as a graduate. So once, and I think anyone that is looking, they're not looking for the salary that they realistically think they're going to get. They're looking for what they hope they will get. So I think unless the individual is mature or especially mature-aged, everyone is wishing. They're not actually studying and checking the data of those entry-level roles. So yes, I would say everyone is shocked unless they've done the actual data investigation.
Interesting.
All right.
Go ahead, Alex.
No, fire away on.
No, I mean, this is something that often fascinates me. This the attitude of the younger generation. I give them credit though, because I do agree. You mentioned this earlier on. They come out now speaking much and having a better command of the English language. I've said this in many, a couple of different podcasts where I remember walking around the hams, the alleyways of Saigon, and seeing children crammed into rooms, after school, full day of school, and then doing another hour and a half of tutoring class.
Yeah.
And that's just the culture, right? If they need to learn English, then the parents will allocate funds, eat instant noodles if they have to, but they're going to make sure that their kids get the education and have a fighting chance of doing well in the class and subsequently out in the workforce. And I noticed that the younger generation now, this is from my personal experience, their ability to adapt to change, their open-mindedness, first of all, to the changing world and willingness to learn new technologies, AI, for example, and then also, understanding concepts like cultural fit, which is, a decade ago was just something that, well, what the heck is that? Who cares? But now it's as more and more Western companies come back, and just the big companies, the smaller companies, even the guy who's opening a small business in Vietnam and needs a couple of employees. That we know that cultural fit is such a important piece of the longevity of somebody working at a firm. Do you find cultural fit something that is important to you when you're hiring, or do you strictly on skills?
Most important thing is cultural fit. We can teach the skills. I can't teach values. I can't teach work ethic. I can't teach behavior, personality. So cultural fit, most important thing. If you've got the skills, bonus. Skills, obviously, they're important for business, but like I said, longevity. I want longevity in my business. So cultural fit is our number one.
So if you got two people, right? One guy comes in, he's oozing with skills, but absolutely no cultural fit. The other person is, just like that missing puzzle piece, perfect fit, but skills can be worked on. Are you willing to make the investment and go with that person and build the skills, or are you going to go with the other gentleman?
Build the skills every day of the week. If it was a short-term role and we were just contracting and it was a 2-month thing, skills are probably more important because it's not a longevity thing. But if I want people in my business that have the same values as I do and are driving the business in the direction that I'm aiming for, cultural fit is number one.
I mean,
What type of? Go ahead, Alex.
Sorry, no, I just want to mention, just with regard to what you said before we move on. I mean, this thing that, you know, I mean, we've discussed with other people, we discussed with Vietnamese people looking for work, and you know, so we've experienced that some believe that a gigantic problem for many Vietnamese coming out of university is that they're too humble, right? They're not good enough to communicate their worth. And then at the same time, we're also hearing, you know, for instance, from you also, right, that people should also they should become a little bit more realistic and sort of, you know, not be completely blind to the fact that when you come out of university, you're not worth that much yet, and you have to become more skillful and more productive before you can reach those, you know, that salary level that you want. So this is just a difficult place for people to be. It's difficult to find that sweet spot, that balance, right? And I think based on that, based on knowing that there's this balance to find, and based on your experience, what is, as a more general question that I want to ask, what would be your number one piece of advice for Vietnamese professionals that in general want to work for Western companies? Just if you want to give them one piece of advice, because these people balance, you want to have to strive to sort of be regarded as attractive to these companies.
I would say preparation is number one. Do your research on the company that you're applying for the position. Understand the position. Understand their values. Present yourself to those values, but also make sure that your values are aligned if you're presenting that way. And then just back to the typical sort of things. Dress for success. Don't come to an interview with runners and jeans. Doesn't matter what level you're applying for. Wear some dress shoes. Arrive early for the interview. It's all about preparation. Present yourself in such a way that all of the non-verbal first interactions with the interviewer are positive. So you're prepared professionally, you're on time, you look sharp, and the next thing is they will start doing the questions and then go from there. So preparation, I feel, is the best advice I could share for anyone looking to enter the workforce.
You said non-verbal communication, and that's something that is actually should be taught to kids in college. You know, something as simple as maintaining great eye contact, not jumping in, you know, trying to say something when the other person is obviously not finished completing their sentence. Having a kind of a happy demeanor. You'd be surprised how many people that I have met. They're actually very happy people, but they have no idea that their facial appearance makes it look like they're stressed or they're constantly.
When you're happy, you need to tell your face that you're happy.
Absolutely. You know, I read this years ago that if you smile long enough over time, you develop these smile lines, and that you look like you're constantly smiling. Now, and whether that's true or not, I took that to heart. And so, you know, these people that come in, you know, they need to be aware of how the body language is communicating a certain message to the hiring manager. You mentioned dressing correctly, you know, not coming into a job interview in flip-flops. You know, they're watching too many of these Silicon Valley tech guys, you know, walking in khaki shorts, and they're trying to, you know, imitate that look. But having, you know, I think it's timeless advice to say dress right. You can never be overdressed, right? You can always be underdressed, as they say, right? Yeah. And having a solid, firm handshake. You know, one of the biggest gripes I had coming to Vietnam years ago, I don't want to sound like a negative Nancy, but you know, shaking somebody's hand and there's absolutely no grip behind it. You know, and that grip says a lot about your confidence, you know, how secure you are in yourself, and what I call fish handshakes. You know, it's like grabbing a dead fish. Simple things like that, right? Especially for women in Vietnam. I'm sorry, go ahead.
All of those things add up in the person interviewing. Those things are what sticks in their mind when the person leaves. Okay, were they early? Did they dress well? handshake, were they asking the right questions? That's all stuff that they remember when it comes time and they're reviewing the CV on paper. They still remember those things. So they're just as important as technical skills, interpersonal skills, and such. That's all great and very important things to remember.
I remember going to a doctor, actually in the hometown where my wife is from here in Denmark. And this is a doctor, mind you, right? And first thing I noticed is he's got dirty fingernails. And I'm thinking at that very moment, whatever he says from here on is negated. I can't take this guy seriously, And so maybe we should have like a checklist, before you go in for the interview. Make sure your nails are clipped. Make sure there's nothing stuck between your teeth. Make sure your suit fits you properly. I mean, there's something I see as for us older guys, it seems almost kind of obvious. Yeah, right. You'd be surprised, not so obvious for some people, and it's a damn shame, because a lot of people do have the technical skills, but they come in and before the interview has even started, they've already failed. And I see that happen often.
Definitely. We've had cases where interviewed 2 or 3 people, and one guy comes in with runners, dirty fingernails, like you said, stuff in his teeth, and it's hard to see through that. It's hard to see past it. And obviously we're hiring for cultural fit, skills, personality, but those things, to me, show your care for self-care is also care about presentation as well. So if that's how you take care of yourself, how are you going to take care of our work? What's the level of importance?
I have an uncle who lives in Silicon Valley, is a very respected executive in the technology field. And he explained to me, I think I actually told Alex this a while back. Every time he conducted an interview, following the end of the interview, he would make it a point to walk the individual back to their car.
Yeah. And
some people are like, why? What's the point of that? Well, he wanted to see how well put together the car was. Did the car have dust and dirty windows? Was it a big mess inside? It was stuff scattered all over the seat? Because he said to me, afterwards, how they maintain their cars, how they maintain their personal life, and how they will maintain their desk area once they start working for me. And that was one of his filters that he had in place to again, you look at a different factors, right? But that thing cannot, he said 90% of the time, the cleanliness of the employee's car, the potential employee's car, it was there's a direct correlation between how they would keep their work area clean or maintain their work area afterwards. And so these little cues that that you remember, you mentioned that a second ago, that you take in maybe even subconsciously as an employer, right? When you're trying to figure out that this guy is somebody I want to invest time in.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people refer to it as gut feeling, like, I got a good gut feeling or I got a bad gut feeling. If you can actually understand why you're having those feelings, it all comes down to those different cues and those interactions, and whether verbal or non-verbal, they're the reasons you have a good feeling or bad feeling.
What would you say is one skill, that the current employee marketplace, but the current crop of employees, what is one particular skill that you find extremely attractive when you're doing the hiring? The different skills they can learn, but if there's one skill that stands out, would you share that with the audience?
Yeah, I would say it's not necessarily a skill, it's a trait or a value. And to me, that is honesty. Be honest with your ability, your skills, your interests. Allow the interviewer to totally understand, are you the right fit? If there is a skill gap, I would hire someone that is open and honest with me about a skill gap than someone that I can't seem to get not the right information, but I'm not getting clear communication, and I don't feel that, trust during the interview. So I'd say be totally honest and just transparent with whoever you're meeting. And what will be, and what will be right will be, and it will find you.
Is it fair to say that the most important impression is the first impression? So coming in and just saying, I'm not quite confident in this certain requirement, but I'm willing to learn. I'm a great learner. I'm committed to becoming the person that I need to be. Is that better than just coming in and say, yes, I've mastered this particular area. I have proven multiple times. So maybe honesty is still the best policy. Is it fair to say?
I believe so. It's very important. Once you've got honesty, you build trust. And what I find that trust is the most important thing, both ways. Not only for me to trust the employee, but for the employees to trust me. So having that open dialogue and that relationship, because eventually it's a working relationship that you want to build for both benefits. So yeah, definitely honesty is the best policy.
So I mean, it obviously also probably means, I know I read that about you also, that you put an emphasis on the people working for you liking the work they do, like loving the work they do. So what in your opinion is the key to creating a work environment where people love to work, where people love what they do?
So I would say it's important to hire people that do have a passion in what we're delivering. And I mean, there's plenty of workplaces around. If you just want a job, you can go and find one. If you want a job where you can enjoy the tasks that you're doing and enjoy doing that, then to me, everything else falls into place. And it's about, okay, how do I create an environment that makes that enjoyable, makes that enjoyment goes to the next level, where it is just 9 to 5 just goes by in a breeze because they're having fun, they're enjoying what they're doing, and they're passionate. And it can be a range of things. It's just about, I guess, understanding your workforce. Like I was saying earlier, we have the Western mindset of, all right, we'll do this and this is going to make a better workplace. Well, no, it doesn't always work that way. You need to understand your team. Okay, is flexible work hours important? No? Okay, don't worry about it. But something else much more important. So let's do that. So it's about just the open dialogue and actually listening to what they want.
Is this something that's been hard to implement? Because I know that in earlier episodes we've discussed this. Something that tends to be a little bit of an issue when it comes to management styles across different cultures, right? So obviously Australia, Scandinavia, where I come from myself, tends to be a very flat structure where a lot of open dialogue between management and employees, and the hierarchy tends to not feel that strict in such a work environment. And then it's the traditional Vietnamese, and I think also if you go to a place like Japan, and so we've had the same discussion that it tends to be a much stricter hierarchy, right? And having implemented what you have sort of taken from the Australian way of putting together a hierarchy or work environment, has this been difficult to implement in Vietnam, or is this something that just fits with people, or that people fit into just like that?
Yes, it has been difficult, but I persisted, and our current team have adapted. I guess we've both adapted, but they appreciate my intent of having a flat structure, and I also understand that traditional culture and values is more of a vertical structure. So it's kind of meeting in the middle, but also understanding that they do have an Australian director, and we'll be running it that way. So it is very much part of our onboarding process, is making sure that there's that awareness as well. If that's something that's really a deterrent, we flag that early.
Yeah, okay. You look like we're going to say something. And no, so is it, per your experience, is it easier for people now that are coming to a company to accept this type of working environment, or does it still take a long time before people adjust to this?
Because the existing team have not only accepted but enjoyed, and because we share the same values, it's been not just accepted, but I'd say ingrained, and they've been part of building that, I guess, structure and the values that we have and what we offer. So it's accepted there. So when a new person comes in, they quickly adapt to the existing environment because it's so widely enjoyed and accepted.
And is this even easier with the new generation coming into the workforce? Is it your experience that this generation is even more wired to just jumping into such an environment and adapting to it immediately almost?
I would say so. I mean, we only have one from the new generation, and what I've found so far is because of that accessibility to social media and the internet and seeing how things are done in other countries, it's more of an option of what is available out there. So it's not just being set and then they come here and they're surprised. They realize that, okay, when they first meet with me, they get a bit of an understanding and this is what I'm heading into, and yes, it's appealing. So I would say, yeah, with the younger generation, they know it's there and they know it's an option, whether they choose to work for a Western-led company or if they want to stick with a traditional Vietnamese company.
How do you keep employees engaged and motivated?
I would say similarly, finding people with passion for what they're doing. It's very easy to motivate people that enjoy their job. If they're doing what they love, all you have to do is be kind and share feedback, reaffirm what they're doing, and it's a very, I find, very simple process of just being human and sharing that sort of human element to the management side of things.
I remember reading a while back that the typical Japanese employee, maybe not the newer generation per se, but the older generation, where they would, basically be with a company for 30, 40 years, basically just one company. And Vietnam has always, impressed me with their also sense of loyalty to group, loyalty to, their association and to their employer. Do you still, based on your experience over at Narcan, have most of the people that have come on, have they stayed with the company once they're happy and they're doing something that they're very motivated and they get excited to do every day? Are they very easy to maintain?
For the first 3 years, we had 0% employee-initiated turnover. Not a single person chose to resign in the first 3 years. I've still got people join me in the beginning. So the loyalty is there, but like I said, the loyalty goes both ways, and that trust and respect, it needs to be mutual and not just one-sided to receive that sort of loyalty.
I would assume that the culture that you've built in the company has kind of like a living, breathing animal, and that's been kind of pivoting and adjusting and iterating over the years. Is it such a fine-tuned machine now that you you have a really quick gut, check, not gut check, but a gut feeling for whoever is going to be an immediate fit and who you just want to, maybe this is not the best place for you. Good luck on your search.
So, I mean, I'm not perfect at recruiting. I never would say I am. So there's always one that you think will be amazing, and then they turn out not to be. So I would say, yeah, I mean, the culture here, like you said, it's living, breathing. It's self-sustaining, what we've developed here. But in terms of onboarding and finding the right fit all the time, every time, I would say that's impossible. You can try, but there's always someone that's going to slip through, unfortunately. And it's unfortunate for both the employer and employee.
Right.
Yeah, we want everyone to succeed.
So as another quick, more general question, what in your opinion and based on your experience, in what way does the average Vietnamese employee stand out compared to employees elsewhere in the world? Of course, it's based on what you have experience with, but what makes the average Vietnamese employee stand out in general?
If I was to compare, I would say work ethic. Work ethic is, in my opinion, far superior. That's probably number one. I mean, there's pros and cons to every sort of work culture, but what I see as a standout is work ethic and focus to succeed.
Is that for everybody, all the different age groups that hasn't gotten worse with the younger generation?
I mean, there's always every generation, every culture, every country. There's always your hard workers, and there's always lazy people. It doesn't matter where you go. It's about, you can't generalize and say Vietnamese are the hardest workers in the world, or Gen Z is the hardest working. It's impossible to generalize because there are outliers that will make them look terrible, and there'll be outliers that make them look incredible. So I don't like to generalize, but I would say, I mean, and different industries as well. What I found in our industry is, and maybe we've just been really fortunate, but the work ethic is definitely there across all ages.
What if somebody comes to you and you might not necessarily be hiring, or they have a strong interest in working with you, and they've done their research, and they have maybe looked at your website and looked at some projects you've worked on and found ways to improve upon maybe your operations, and they just cold contacted you. Would that be something that you welcome? As I know, so I have a nephew that seems to be always employed, and I asked him, what is it about you, man? Because you seem to be always hopping onto a new job, and he spends a lot of time, of course, looking at a company that he respects, he likes, and doing something that speaks to him. But he does a lot of research, and so he comes in even when they're not hiring, and seems to get hired.
Yeah.
So have you ever experienced anybody like that?
So it's funny you mentioned that. I've been receiving several cover letters and resumes and video introductions for roles that, one, we don't have, or two, we're not hiring for. I will always read it, because you never know what you might come across. You might come across an absolute gem. So I'll always read it and definitely review. There was one that I wasn't hiring for, not something we have a position for, but I did reach out to them to arrange an interview. So I would say, definitely do it, and definitely show your interest. Show your interest and show why you're interested. I'd say it's really important. What's
the future hold for Narcan? You guys have been, how many years exactly have you guys been operating?
4 years.
4 years. Okay. What's the next few years look like for you guys?
I would say, maintaining our quality and our service is my number one priority. Making sure that all of our customers are happy, our staff are happy. So that's the focus. And I don't have a crystal ball, so I don't know where our industry's going. I hope it goes up, but we'll just tackle it as it comes. So the sky's the limit, really.
All right. This one thing I wanted to come back on, and I wanted to ask it earlier. Your willingness to work with people and to meet them halfway and to provide them the necessary training and upskilling. That's actually not common in Vietnam. Vietnam traditionally is, you come in, here's your job, shut up and work. And if you can't perform, then don't even bother starting. I would assume that this kind of attitude would really attract a lot of employees and would want and would be a source of reason for them to stay with you. Because this kind of support is not normal. Maybe elsewhere, but I don't hear too many local Vietnamese businesses with that kind of mindset.
They should adopt it. It's everyone had to learn from somewhere. I mean, I consider myself very fortunate with the career entry I had, and then support throughout the years to develop myself. It was definitely I got paid well and paid fairly, and I worked really hard at everything. So I think it's a balance. If you've got a skill gap and your employer is going to help bridge that gap, you shouldn't take that for granted, and that should sort of be reciprocated from the employee. I think the reason that any business wouldn't do it is because they've been burnt in the past for providing that training, and then once the employee leaves, but they'd move on elsewhere for a slightly higher salary.
Are you currently hiring?
Yeah. Go and join.
Not necessarily from Alex and I, but I'm assuming that some people who are going to be listening to this might really be interested in learning more about your company, and especially if they are in the industry that fits with the work that you're doing, then they would probably want to reach out.
Like I said, always happy to read resumes and see what's out there, whether we're hiring or not. If we don't have a position right now, I can always find a position and or earmark their CV for review later, next opportunity.
We'll make sure in the footnotes of the video to have your information, and also have the company's information. If there's somebody out there that wants to reach out and send a resume that maybe at some point, you'll find a position, or you'll have a position open that they might be able to follow up with you on.
And just make sure that they listen to the part of the podcast about preparing for an interview.
Yeah, we'll put that up as part of the curriculum, right? We'll
absolutely.
Should we say that part of the requirement is, since you had 15 years with one employer, that they got to be at least ready to commit at least half that time with you? And that should be.
Yeah, we can start with that.
We'll use this podcast
Awesome.
as an instructional video. If people haven't watched this episode, then they can apply for jobs through VetAssist. It's just like, that'll be a new rule. That'll be a new rule.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Scott, I think we're slowly running out of time now. So I don't know, do you have any more questions? Otherwise,
I think Scott has done a great job in answering our questions. I can always come up with questions and keep them on for another half an hour, but out of respect for Scott and his time and what he's got to do this evening, we'll wrap it up here. We'll make sure again, Scott, to have your information so that anybody, if they are interested in your company, can reach out. I think what you're doing is fantastic, and I hope that we can continue the conversation at some point. Maybe you can give us an update on the company, and we can get your feedback and your experiences in Vietnam. Maybe at some point in the future again, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
And just one quick comment, Scott, before we end. So I will say, again, thank you so much for spending this time to talk with us. I will say it's been great, very inspiring talking to you, and very, very inspiring reading about you. And I'll say, from one Lego enthusiast to another, right? I'm a Dane, so obviously 95% of my childhood was basically building and breaking Lego structures, right? So yeah, absolutely.
Right.
And it's a great piece of toy. Do you still build Lego?
To be honest, I don't have time with the business. I should make it part of our break room activities. That could be part of the interview process.
Hey, you know what you could do? You could leave it out. And for those who don't, like when you walk out of the room, if you have the camera running, if they don't naturally gravitate towards the Legos and fool around with it, you already know you get the wrong person.
Red flag.
It's true passion, right? True passion is like an urge that can't be defeated, right? So but very, very inspiring. You have a great story, awesome story, and thank you for again talking with us. And
thank you.
See you around maybe for a future episode, right?
Absolutely. Thanks for your time.
All right, Scott. Listen, man, have a great week, and we'll talk soon again.
Thanks. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys. See you.